The abyss is a vast wound in the cosmic order, a bottomless pit teeming with creatures that exist only to rend, tear, and destroy. The demon princes, individual demons of great power and determination, bend and shape the abyss and its inhabitants to meet their every whim. These mighty beings imagine themselves at the center of the cosmos. Each demon prince believes that the universe will one day be theirs to command, its laws and structure twisted and warped to match the demon's ideal of perfection. A demon prince's arrogance is exceeded only by their ambition, while any rational being would dismiss their goals as empty ambition sparked by madness. The truth remains that demon princes and their thralls are among the mightiest forces in the planes. It is conceivable that, if the blood war turns dramatically in their favor, the demon princes could put the rest of their apocalyptic plans in motion. One such demon prince is an insidious presence that worms into mortal hearts and minds and deceives them into turning away from righteousness to embrace brutality. This agent of destruction is Baphomet, known as the Prince of Beasts, the Trampler, the Minotaur Lord, and the Horned King. Born from the churning chaos of the abyss near the dawn of time, Baphomet is the embodiment of savagery, one of nature's most destructive aspects, and the catalyst that looses the beast residing in us all. Baphomet divides the creatures of the world into two groups. Those who acknowledge his power are his servants, and he endows them with savagery and a hunter's cunning. The rest are prey, creatures to be hunted and slaughtered. His aim is to transform the cosmos into his personal hunting ground. I am Omar Timsaw.
I am William Stark.
And this is D&D Legends and Lore. Hey everyone. Before we get into today's episode, we just wanted to thank you. All of you. Whether you're liking, commenting, and subscribed, engaging with the community over on Discord, casually lurking, supporting us more directly through Patreon and YouTube memberships, or by checking out our affiliates and sponsors. We appreciate the support in all its many forms from the bottom of our hearts. We couldn't do this without you. Baphomet, if he had his way, would watch civilization crumble as all races embrace their base animal savagery. The Horned King sees civilization as weakness and savagery as strength. He rules over minotaurs and others with savage hearts. He is worshipped by those who want to break the confines of civility and unleash their bestial natures. For Baphomet envisions a world without restraint, where creatures live out their most savage desires. The Prince of Beasts is a towering monstrosity, a perfect fusion of humanoid and monster. Baphomet has the muscled body of a burly titan. He appears as a huge 20-foot-tall black-furred minotaur with 6 iron horns, red eyes, and a blood-soaked mouth. From his back extends a bovine tail that ends in a stinking tuft of fur. His curving horns are engraved with blasphemous sigils. These sigils form phrases so foul, to utter them aloud would forever darken the soul of anyone who hears the filthy words. He carries a huge glaive named Heartcleaver, but often hurls it into the fray so as to face his enemies with horns and hooves. An infernal light burns in his red eyes. Although he is filled with bestial bloodlust, there lies within him a cruel and cunning intellect devoted to subverting all of civilization. Baphomet exults in his muscled physique. He coats his fur with blood and fat culled from his victims to accentuate his build. When he dons clothing or adornments, he does so to sate his depraved vanity and augment his appearance. He might wear bracelets as well as rings in his long tapering ears, his nose, and in the flesh of his torso. The demon prince dons an iron crown. He rests this crude coronet upon his brow as a sign of his mastery and dominance. On its cruel tines he impales the heads of his victims, causing the metal to rust from the dripping ichors until orange streaks spread down his face. Many myths exist about Baphomet's origins. One story suggests, as a primordial being, he created the Minotaurs to war on the gods, but was defeated and hurled into the abyss where he transformed into the demon prince now known today. Another version tells that he threw himself into the abyss rather than suffer defeat or imprisonment at the hands of the gods. Some claim he is a fallen god, and others say that the abyss's infinite evil spontaneously spawned him. Baphomet himself does not know if he was once a man whose feral nature led him along the path of the beast, or if he was once a beast with the strange and wretched aspirations of living life as a man. Nor does he care to remember. What he was before he came to gaze upon the abyss, his soul laid bare and open before its entropic caress, matters little. What matters is what he has become. Baphomet sees himself as the embodiment of all that is virile and strong in the countenance of savagery, tempered with the keen mind and intellect of the scientist and scholar. He is a man who can rut and ruin like the wild creatures of the primeval world, yet he is also a beast given the gift of society and culture. He is not hampered by the shortcomings of either, and is tempered with the strengths of both. Legends speak of how Baphomet was once a man who dared to treat the gods like cattle, and was cursed for his blasphemy and cast into the pit. Yet Baphomet observes his kingdom now, populated by a prosperous race created entirely in his own image. It is an infinite realm bounded only by the imagination of its master, full of fanatical worshippers who whisper his name with reverent awe. Baphomet knows the gods did not curse him, for what curse is it that grants a mortal man or hungry beast the powers of a demon lord? Baphomet sees himself as the darkest aspect of nature, as unbridled savagery. He is a hateful, vicious power who delights in brute force and violence. He seeks power over the Minotaurs to enlist their aid in his own schemes, notably his enmity and conflict with Yunagu, the demon prince of slaughter, and Baphomet's greatest rival. Baphomet is a savage entity, but he tempers his ferocity with shrewdness. He loves the hunt and the sense of impending doom that comes over prey that can't escape his pursuit. His fondness for labyrinths instilled in the Minotaurs he created reflects this aspect of his personality. Baphomet studies every detail of the mazes he creates and exults in the dread that overcome those who become lost in them. He tracks them at his leisure, striking only after the maze's contorted corridors have exhausted the energy and the hope of his victims. Although the patron of carnality, slaughter, and savage madness, Baphomet is cunning. He uses wit as often as brute strength to undo his foes. Baphomet is not without his weaknesses, though, and the greatest is his pride. Insulting the Prince of Beasts unleashes his rage and hate in a terrifying display of violence. He stomps around, venting his wrath, rampaging and destroying anything in his vile reach. Plying Baphomet with compliments, on the other hand, helps to make the demon prince almost reasonable. But the trampler demands constant flattery, no matter how far-fetched, and utter servility from those who serve him. Baphomet is prone to paranoid delusions, and he kills and devours even the most shameless flatterers in his court. Thus, those serving Baphomet learn quickly to appease the beast to keep their master's temper in check, but not so often as to overexcite his imagination. Baphomet's lair of the abyss is a never-ending dungeon, known as the Endless Maze, the center of which home to the Horned King's enormous ziggurat palace, known as the Fortress of Lycteon. A confusing jumble of crooked hallways and myriad chambers, the palace is surrounded by a mile-wide moat concealing a maddening series of submerged stairs and tunnels leading deeper into the fortress. The Endless Maze is a massive labyrinth spreading out in all directions, the passages confounding those with the misfortune to have to explore the place. Those who come to the upper reaches of the Endless Maze find the corridors have no ceilings, but the walls extend hundreds of feet into the air. Climbing or flying to the top afflicts the visitor with weakness and despair, causing many to give up and retreat or fall down to the unforgiving stones below. Those who make it to the top feel the full weight of their journey's futility, because the maze extends all around as far as the eye can see. Those who linger at the top soon attract the attention of demons who like nothing more than to destroy cheaters. The open-air maze is but the tip of Baphomet's domain, since staircases arranged throughout the realm lead deeper into the sprawling labyrinth. These send travelers into corridors even more terrible and dangerous, where horrible monsters and nefarious traps lie in wait. Walls move of their own accord, sealing off some corridors while opening new ones. Bizarre flora lurks in the crevices, spewing poisonous spores at passerbys. The subterranean corridors vary in height and width, but 10-foot-wide passages are common. The walls are smooth, cut from dark granite or basalt, but some areas feature walls cut from marble, obsidian, jade, porphyry, and if rumors can be believed, even diamond. The passages might carry travelers to open galleries, where scores of tunnels branch off, or they might constrict until a person has to crawl to make any progress. The endless maze is in better repair the closer one travels to Lycteon, with smooth walls and little sign of debris, but farther out, malfunctioning traps, streaks of blood, chunks of rotting meat, bones, broken walls leading into spaces between space, and more are common. The endless maze also features portals connected to other labyrinths found in the abyss. According to some planar travelers, there is a portal to every maze in the cosmos within Baphomet's labyrinth. Portals sometimes open in unexpected places, luring creatures from other planes to lose themselves and their lives to the wonders of Baphomet's realm. The endless maze is home to an assortment of terrible creatures. Numerous minotaur tribes inhabit the maze, usually led by half-fiend minotaurs or rogue bulazows that have escaped the blood war. These creatures revere Baphomet as a patron deity, and such is their devotion that some eventually escape the maze to preach the gospel of the Prince of Beasts to the minotaurs of the material plane. In addition to the ram-headed bulazow, several domestic demon breeds created by Baphomet haunt the lair, including brutal horned ogres known as gors, and the Demon Lord's greatest creation and most frequent demonic export, the Goristros. Numerous wild Goristros hungrily wander the forlorn hallways of the endless maze, keeping the larger corridors and galleries free from intruders. The Demon Lord tolerates raiding parties of Glabrezoos who occasionally abduct these creatures to lash them into the service of a distant Demon Lord. For Baphomet knows that the Goristro's stature and battle prowess carry his legend to all corners of the abyss. For all the demons and shrieking horrors of the maze, the lair supports a large number of mortals capable of providing succor or danger to visiting adventurers. These furtive, untrusting creatures are the lost, usually gnolls or humans released from the dungeons below Baphomet's palace at Lycteon. Baphomet and his servitors casually hunt down these pitiful creatures as a way to slake boredom or keep fresh for more important battles. Baphomet's wrathful rivalries with other demon lords, especially Yunagu and Grozit, fuel most of the armed conflict in the endless maze, with vast hordes of demons and mortal warriors flooding the tunnels in an attempt to destroy the Prince of Beasts in his lair. Few invaders manage to navigate the labyrinth well enough to pose a serious threat to the Demon Lord, but those who do must first defeat Baphomet's creations before they can get a chance at the master himself. In some ways, the endless maze serves as something of a testing ground. Before the Prince of Beasts accepts an audience with a mortal servant, he might demand the petitioner seek out and find a specific creature lost in the maze. Those who return are worthy of Baphomet's attention. Those who don't are forgotten. Baphomet's lair is his palace, the Lycteon. Nestled within the twisting passages of the plane-wide labyrinth, the Lycteon is immaculately maintained and surrounded by a mile-wide moat constructed in the fashion of a three-dimensional maze. The palace is a towering structure whose interior is as labyrinthine as the plane on which it resides, populated by minotaurs, goristros, and quasits. The Lycteon itself is a mighty fortress mirroring the madness defining Baphomet's realm. Within are countless passages, moving staircases, and other pitfalls designed to frustrate, maim, and kill those daring to penetrate his personal domain. It is a 1,000-chambered palace, a confusing jumble of crooked hallways and rooms staffed by an army of diligent closet cooks and sweepers. Crawling through its twisted passages are broken souls in service to the demon prince. These fiends and mortals are so shattered by their thraldom that they have lost all sense of self and purpose outside their vain master. The most feral of Baphomet's bestial guardians dwell in the depths of the moat that surround the palace, and they rush to defend the Lycteon in the relatively common event of an attack from the likes of Yanagu and Grozit. Though the Lycteon and the Endless Maze are the most prominent locations in Baphomet's lair, they are far from the only horrific sites of importance. The Oberith Pale Night, the mother of demons, dwelled upon the 600th layer of the Abyss long before the coming of Baphomet, who is himself quite ancient relative to most of demonkind. When the feral-horned Prince of Beasts reached the Oberith's fading realm, Pale Night somehow managed to suppress his rage enough to propose a pact that has lasted to the current day. While Baphomet's Endless Maze dominates most of the Infinite Lair, a sizable portion remains under the control of Pale Night, who dwells in a morbid castle at the center of a wide circular plain of bones. The bone castle looks extremely aged and delicate, as if the brittle hand and finger bones that make up its haunting surface might crackle into dust at any moment. Despite appearances, the castle remains extremely sturdy and has not been conquered during the course of recorded abyssal history. In huge niches stationed around vast galleries inside the castle, Pale Night displays the fractured shadows of her slain victims. The maze itself is only barely visible from the ramparts of the Bone Castle, and Baphomet never interferes with Pale Night's dominion over her original realm. For her part, the enigmatic demoness seldom ventures into the Prince of Beasts' domain, except to utilize the lair's single gate to Androline, where she spends a great deal of time toying with a generation of trapped Eladrin children. Those few who chanced upon the Bone Castle claim to have spied a ghostly figure gliding across the battlements, a shapely and frightening woman whose gossamer strands of white hair conceal her face. The Tower of Science is a complex tower of hammered metal plates that completely dominates this enormous cylindrical chamber, leaving no more than 15 feet between the structure's exterior and the unfinished walls of Baphomet's endless labyrinth. No entrances mark the 200-foot-tall tower at ground level, but numerous bridges connect the structure to tunnels leading off from the chambers at several different heights. The tower's dome roof, reminiscent of an observatory, bears a wide groove that exposes the circular chamber within. The chamber can rotate and extend a set of stairs to reach any of 13 different passages leading elsewhere in the maze. The tower has a diameter of 80 feet. Each of the tower's 16 floors focuses upon a different science of interest to Baphomet, including such devotions as torture, death, skinning, taxidermy, vivisection, dissection, flesh grafting, breeding experimentation, and the construction of new skeletal frameworks by mixing and matching bone from hundreds of different donor creatures. In chambers below the tower, Baphomet labors over completely original demonic breeds crafted from the discarded bones and flesh of his failed experiments, resulting in several original breeds, including the Bulazaus, Gors, Goristros, and worse. The least dependable and most violent of these creatures soon find themselves bound in the subterranean maze of the misbegotten. Able subjects are cast out of the tower, which they reflexively protect as their site of origin. Baphomet spends more time in the Tower of Science than anywhere else, including his chambers in the Lycteon. When not slaving in his Tower of Science or brooding over material plane schemes in the Lycteon, Baphomet prefers to sate his desire for carnage and mayhem in the Fields of Brass, an enormous coliseum built in a bowl-shaped crater that stinks with the spilled blood of eons. The ovoid fighting surface measures nearly 1,000 feet in diameter and is constructed of huge overlapping brass plates. Because the battles so often involve feral beasts and animalistic demons of great stature, fighting often spills over into the tiered upper structure of the arena, a series of heavily trapped open-air labyrinths that add a deadly dimension to the combat in the Colosseum. Unusually, only a small handful of seats looked down upon the labyrinths and fighting field, the most notable being Baphomet's imposing throne of brass and bone upon the field's highest rim. The Abyss is no stranger to conflict, but the battle lines shift with the ambitions of the princes who rule. One constant, however, is the war between Baphomet and Yeenoghu. This unrelenting and costly conflict consumes at least half of each demon lord's attention and resources. The Prince of Beasts' obsession with defeating his rival exceeds reason. He has taken disastrous risk in defeating his ancient foe. The Beast of Butchery reciprocates in full. Their mutual enmity has gone on for so long that neither demon remembers its original cause. After several invasions into each other's realms, each time ending in an almost crippling defeat, the two have learned. They now fight on different battlefields, where the fate of each can be decided through proxies, with savage minotaurs squaring off against demonic gnolls until nothing but carnage and carrion remains. Just as Baphomet sends his hordes against Yeenoghu's in the Abyss, so too does he demand his cabal and cultists fight the gnolls in the mortal world, whether they serve the Beast of Butchery or not. Gnolls and minotaurs clash with spectacular violence, fighting until one or both sides find utter destruction. Second only to his hatred of Yeenoghu is his enmity against deities of nature. Baphomet longs to rule over the natural world, where his savagery can be expressed in an unfettered way. He devotes much of his resources to this front. His black soul burns for the heads of nature deities such as Melora or Sylvanas to place on his crown, and hearts to consume. Minotaurs and others that follow the Horned King take great pains to spread over and defile the natural order, making an enemy of any who serve these deities. Baphomet's worshippers destroy any of the holy places of nature gods they find, slaying almost all who live there. Almost all, because they have a tradition of sparing one follower in 6, usually the weakest. They leave the lucky victim maimed and mutilated, but alive, as a warning of what offending the trampler brings. Baphomet has earned other enemies as well. He has a long-standing grudge against both Grozit and Orcus, each of whom imprisoned him for a time. As much as Baphomet craves retribution, he knows he cannot mount a proper offensive in these cases. He cannot leave himself open to attack to indulge in vengeance against powerful demon princes. Baphomet's servants are a legion. On his lair, he commands innumerable demons, each selected for their singular viciousness and cruelty. Carnage demons roam the distant tunnels, scouring the endless passages for fresh meat. Balors raise palaces in large chambers, where they oversee courts of servile and fawning fiends who prostrate themselves before the Balor's fiery might. Abyssal dragons lair in the depths and on the upper walls, while Glabrazu flit through the toxic clouds, dipping from the cloying mist to snatch the unwary. Baphomet has a complex relationship with Pale Knight. The two demon lords share control over the same abyssal lair, although Pale Knight's influence doesn't truly extend beyond the vast plateau on which her castle is located. The two demons have never joined forces to accomplish a goal, but any attempt to lay siege to one of their holdings in the Endless Maze might result in the other coming to his or her aid. Part of Baphomet's inability to forge lasting alliances stems from his intense paranoia and vanity. His supreme arrogance disallows him from making concessions to allies, and when he does, resentment clouds common sense, eventually resulting in a stunning betrayal. He has crossed dozens of evil beings, ensuring little chance of finding help if his enemies come knocking with power enough to defeat him. Baphomet, demon lord of beasts, claims to have created minotaurs and demands their worship. While most minotaurs live free of the demon lord's bonds, those that serve him become minotaurs of Baphomet. These brutes resemble the hulking horned demon lord more than others of their kind, and they wreak havoc in the foul immortal's name. Rarely, non-minotaurs cursed by magic users or spiteful deities might transform into these monsters. Where civilization's light fails to shine, strange religions, weird cults, and vile sects take hold. They prey on the weak and the desperate, and they flourish on fear, anger, and ignorance. Some are born of religious misinterpretations or extremism, but a few are far more sinister, evil masquerading as legitimate faith. When civilization comes to these backwater areas, priests discover the belief upheld by a few sects are nothing more than demon worship, practices so profane that the only cure is swift and utter annihilation. A prominent force in the corruption and subversion of mortal communities is the Horned King Baphomet. Baphomet has a widespread cult in the mortal world. Strongest among the Minotaurs, he extends his influence through his thralls. He poisons the minds of their people to turn them to his service, urging them to set aside introspective pursuits and let loose the beast within. Those who give in to these temptations find the darkness in their hearts growing until they swell with terrible evil, growing larger and more savage on the abyss's corrupting influence. Though Minotaurs make up the majority of Baphomet's mortal servants, Baphomet has had luck converting other humanoids to his cause. He preys on the frightened and the ignorant, filling mortal minds with fear and lust for the power his devoted servants promise. Woodsfolk, exiles, and hermits alike find comfort in the savagery of this dark master, and through them, Baphomet's cults blossom, sometimes drawing entire communities into his fold. The cult of Baphomet attracts those who see themselves as superior to everyone else, to the extent that they consider other people little more than animals. Baphomet's teachings reinforce these beliefs, appealing to the ego and justifying narcissism. Bigots are also drawn to Baphomet's doctrine of individual superiority. Cultists of Baphomet include nobles who use their vassals as playthings, assassins who practice their murderous art for the sheer love of hunting intelligent creatures, and paranoid humans who combine a hatred of outsiders with bloodthirstiness. Typically, a cult builds a maze beneath a castle, a guild hall, or some other place it controls. The cultists drug their victims, strip them of their weapons and armor, and place them in the labyrinth before they wake up disoriented. Then the cultists stalk their prey in the maze. They howl as they chase their quarry, striking fear into their victims' hearts before descending for the kill. If the hunt claims a particularly powerful creature, Baphomet might bestow boons on the cultists as a reward. Cults devoted to Baphomet use mazes and complex knots as their emblems, creating secret places to indulge themselves, including labyrinths of the sort their master favors. Blood-stained crowns and weapons of iron and brass decorate their profane altars. Over time, Baphomet's cultists become tainted by his influence, gaining bloodshot eyes and coarse, thickening hair. Small horns eventually sprout from the forehead. In time, a devoted cultist might transform entirely into a minotaur, considered the greatest gift of the Prince of Beasts. As an agent of chaos, Baphomet demands little from his followers, preferring to let their madness and brimming evil guide their pursuits. Central to their service, though, is embracing the inner beast. Those new to the cult find their inhibitions weakened until they act without thinking, giving in to their darkest desires without thought of consequence. In time, his followers fall so far they begin to manifest monstrous traits, twisting and mutating into feral versions of their former selves until they bark and howl, shrieking and hooting as they enslave and slaughter. Often, cults of Baphomet bury themselves deep behind layers of secrecy and misdirection to worship and serve as they see fit. Many cults masquerading as charitable organizations or militant arms of established religions, such as Erithus and Pelor, and others pretend to be wealthy clubs founded by elite society members. In each case, their masks conceal sinister and subversive organizations who delight in hedonistic expressions of despicable worship, exploring carnality, foul magic, and forbidden lore. Oddly, most Baphomet cults aren't aware of their patron's nature and might see the object of their devotion as an intellectual exercise or manifestation of another deity, such as Melora. Although many of Baphomet's cults infiltrate developed societies, lurking in the shadows of progress, a movement grows among remote settlements far from the trade routes and caravan roads that act as the arteries of progress. Baphomet's servants spread across the countryside, preying on the natural fears born from the dark and the wilderness. Isolation breeds ignorance, and some of the most violent and open cults in Baphomet's service exist on the fringes of decaying kingdoms and empires. Symbols for Baphomet vary a great deal. Most know each other by a twisted circular maze awash in blood, a sign favored by minotaurs, who already regard the labyrinth as a holy sign. Where such symbols are more recognizable, followers might use a hand gesture to alert their fellows to their allegiance. A common sign is the bull's horns, wherein one splays the index and little fingers, while folding the middle and ring fingers down, holding them in place with the thumb, which itself juts out, perpendicular to the palm. This has been D&D Legends and Lore. Thanks so much for listening or watching on your platform of choice. If you enjoyed this episode, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Also, consider leaving us a review, especially on Apple Podcasts. It really helps others find the show. If you'd like to support us more directly, check out our Patreon or channel memberships on YouTube. There you'll also find ad-free early episodes as well as live play and third-party D&D content. Links, as always, are in the description. With that, thank you for listening, and happy adventuring.